I am so glad you convinced me that the family car should be the Defender 110. It is so beautiful inside. It's so comfortable and it just feels indestructible.
Yes, it really is. I've been waiting a long time for the new model to come out. The Defender 110, I'm telling you, it's my favorite car of all times. It's my third one. You know, I have stories of going off-road. The guy managed the group. He was like, what are you doing in this beautiful car? I'm like, I'm going off-road. He's like, are you sure? Because you can use one of ours. And then they look like Mad Max cars. I'm like, no, we're going to do this. And he was shocked.
Wow. Well, it's great because the Defender has been reimagined for 21st century adventure, and its unparalleled off-road ability as well as its robust interior are invaluable whether you're headed towards uncharted territory or just a weekend of exploration. The Defender 110 tackles challenging surroundings with absolute confidence. The SUV conveys strength outside and in, featuring peerless technology like an intuitive driver display and an award-winning infotainment system. That's my favorite part, to keep you connected no matter where the journey takes you. Adventure is unique to everyone, and so is the Defender. Choose from the two-door Defender 90, the four-door Defender 110, or the larger Defender 130 with the ability to seat up to 8 passengers. You'll find uncompromising performance in all three. So pack up and go even further with the Defender 110. Learn more at LandRoverUSA.com/Defender.
These days, we're all investors, trying to be smart with our money despite our worst impulses. But at iShares, we believe that deep down inside of every investor is a better investor. One that's just waiting to be let out. Explore iShares ETFs and insights and let your best investor out. Visit iShares.com for more information.
This isn't your average business podcast, and he's not your average host. This is the James Altucher Show on the Stansberry Radio Network.
Hey, is this Coolio?
What's up?
Coolio, this is James. Thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, no problem, James. It's all good.
So, Coolio, here's what my show is sort of about. It's about how people transform, like amazing artists and businessmen transform their lives from one career to another career to another career. And you've done that so well over your whole life. I wanted to talk to you about that. Is that cool with you?
Sure.
Okay, so,
let's go.
you know, I saw you once on Craig Ferguson's show, The Late Late Show, and you kind of did this funny thing. You turned the tables on him and you asked him, you were almost making fun of the question, like, oh, how did you get into rapping? So I'm assuming like everyone asks you that, but I have to ask you that because it's interesting to me. So when did you start getting into, obviously you're one of the best rappers in history. When did you start doing it? How old were you?
I think I first started when I was about 14, 15.
Why'd you get into it?
I met some guys from New York. Obviously, I grew up in Compton, California. They moved across the street from me. They were from Brownsville, New York, and they moved in with their grandmother. Am I clear?
Yeah, you're clear.
I have to make sure because I'm driving with my hands free. You know, my little hands free thing.
Okay, cool.
Anyway,
don't have an accident.
Oh, I won't. My hands are free.
Okay, good. We don't want you to have like a driving podcast incident.
Okay, so anyway, there was these four, like there was three guys, DJ D, Richie C, and one named Wiz Kid, and they were from Brownsville. They moved across the street from me, and the DJ D, his name is actually Denard Valentine. And he was amazing on turntables. I had never seen anything like that before. So, I originally I think I wanted to be a DJ, but of course, I'm from, we grew up in a slightly, not quite advantaged neighborhood, and my parents couldn't afford to buy me no turntables or nothing like that. So, I I used to just sit there and watch. I used to watch them do it. And there was this, then after about 3, 4, maybe even 6 months went by, another guy moved to Compton. He was a Puerto Rican dude named Juan. And every girl that I liked him.
That really sucks when that happens.
Yeah, I hate that too. So
that happens to me all the time, but I'm not as cool as you.
It's all good. I wasn't that cool back then, though.
I don't think that's true, but go ahead.
I was on the verge. I wouldn't even call Coolio then.
Yeah, but
anyway.
you probably still had some kind of swagger going on. Like all these guys were hanging out with you. They were letting you hang out with them.
Well, I mean, I was from the neighborhood, so that's how it went. Anyway, make a long story short.
Oh, Coolio, I'm starting to lose you now.
You got me? Still got me?
Yeah, now I got you.
Okay, they made a little pause button tape. If you know what a pause button tape is, that's when you keep pausing the music and then retaping it until you make a beat. You catch all the parts that you want on a pause, and you make yourself a whole instrumental.
Oh, that's really interesting because now you can just use computers for all that, but you probably had to get right down into the nitty gritty of what a beat was in order to make it work.
Now, then of course, but they made a little tape, and everybody went outside after they made the tape, except Juan. He stayed inside, and he kept rewinding his part. So he rewinded his part. I think we rewinded about 6 times. I looked up, and he said to me, he said, "Hey, that's fly, that's fly." And I told him, I said, "That's all right." He said, "All right." He said, "You can't even rap." I said, "I know I can." I said, "But that right there, what you just did," I said, I can write something like that in 10, 15 minutes. He said, "Do it then." And I did. And that was it. From that day on, probably for the next 10 years of my life, I wrote every day.
So Coolio, this is really important. So for 10 years, you wrote every single day. Would you write first thing in the morning? Would you write in the afternoon? What would you write? Just lyrics?
Yeah, whenever.
And were you rapping them also, or did you focus more on the writing?
No, I was rapping them too.
And
practicing, like I said, we didn't have any equipment to make demos or nothing, so it was just practice. I was honing my skill.
And so 10 years. What year did you start writing? How you were born in 1963, so it's like 1977 you started writing.
Let me see. Add that up. Let me see. 63 plus 7, that'll be 1970. 77. It's about 78.
Yeah. So I know your first single or one of your first big singles is "What You Gonna Do" in 1987.
No, it wasn't big.
It was small,
it
but
wasn't a big. I mean, it got played on the radio. That's it. I mean, I don't even think. I don't even know if it sold 100 copies. I have no clue.
But what I'm getting at is you wrote for 9 years, you practiced for 9 years, and you had that one first single that sold 100 copies, played in the radio, was on the local scene in L.A., and then it took you another 4 years after that. You joined WC and the Mad Circle, and so you were really working at it. Like, there was no real, you weren't making money at this time doing it, but you did it for the love of it.
Absolutely. I did it because it made me feel good. I enjoyed it. It was, kept me out of trouble, too.
In what sense? Like, what were your friends doing? What was going on there?
Gang banging, robbing and stealing.
So you were doing this for 9 years before you even had a single. Like, I'm assuming girls like...
It might have been longer than that, to tell you the truth.
Yeah,
it might have been longer than 9 years. I'm not absolutely sure.
Were you getting pressure to go out in the gang?
It was longer than that. Because I I joined Low Profile before I joined the Mad Circle. The Mad Circle came off the back of Low Profile because Low Profile broke up. That was DJ Aladdin and Dub C.
You know, why do you think so many people think that they don't need to put in like 9 years of work in order to be great at something?
I think because people are lazy. They want, especially the kids today, man. They want everything the easy way. And like I said, I didn't even consider making it in rap. I mean, people wasn't getting record deals back then and stuff like that. You know, I didn't know if that was going to happen or not. I was just doing it because I loved it, and I actually wanted to be a psychologist.
Why'd you want to be a psychologist?
Because I was good at reading people.
And like, what's an example? Like, how would you help your friends out and stuff?
Yeah, I used to do the block test on people when I was like 14. When I was like 13, 14, I started doing the block test on people, and then I was doing word analyzation, like when you ask somebody the first thing that comes to their mind, and then based upon the words that they say from a series of questions that you ask them, you psychoanalyze them and tell them about themselves.
Oh, that's interesting. And did people did your friends respond to that? Like, were you correct most of the time?
I was one of those children that I could read really well, and I was really good in school. So I mean, I was reading on a college level when I was 12, 13 years old, and my comprehension was I had comprehension of a 12th grader when I was in 7th grade.
Well, so were your friends kind of making fun of you for this? Like, I'm sure you were probably really different from the kids you were hanging out with.
Oh yeah, they used to call me old man. They used to call me old man artist. My name is Artiste. My real name is Artiste, by the way. And they would never say my name right. It was great. They called me old man artist though. That was my nickname in the neighborhood.
So you had probably this kind of understanding of people combined with writing every day allowed you to kind of essentially make this poetry that turned into, Fantastic Voyage, Gangsta's Paradise, and all the songs that became huge hits.
Yeah, it was my vocabulary, my comprehension. It was all of it, man. And I'm any kids out there listening, or anybody out there listening that has any aspirations to be an MC, you better get your words up, get your vocabulary up. That's the only way I think you really be good.
But it seems like it's not only that, because let's take a look at Gangsta's Paradise for a second. You refer to so many different things in that one song that I think that's part of what makes it so great. Like, just the first line, as I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, like, I don't know if you went to church as a kid, but, obviously that's a religious phrase.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I did. I'm not going to say I really like going to church, but I was forced to, My mother made me go. That was what we did on Sunday. And you know what?
And that seemed like it was part of your life, like all the kind of gang stuff that was going on in your area. People were dying, so you really were in the valley of the shadow of death.
Well, yeah, I unfortunately, I guess at this point, fortunately, because of the way things turned out, I grew up in Los Angeles during the time when the average lifespan of a young black male was 22 years old.
Well, there's even that phrase in your song, I'm 23 now, will I live to be 24? I don't know.
Yeah.
And
so that's how it was. I mean, there was about 17 of us that started off all together. We played football together, basketball. We grew up, we knew each other's moms, and, we all grew up around each other. Out of that 17, there is now 4 of us left, and one of those 4 is doing life in prison. No, no. It's 5 of us left, and one of those 5 is doing life in prison, and the other 12 out of the other 12, 8 of them lost before the age of 30.
How'd they die?
Drive-bys, getting shot or getting stabbed or, stuff like that. Drugs.
So it seems it's really interesting to me. Like, you take songs like Fantastic Voyage as an example. They're not the typical kind of straight out of Compton sort of song. Like, your lyrics are never violent, even though it's clear you're from, South Central LA and everything. You weren't like an NWA type of guy.
Well, I mean, when I got a chance to make records, the first thing I thought to myself, okay, I'm gonna have the opportunity to be heard by millions. Do I want to say the same thing that somebody else already said? And I looked at it that way, and I decided that no, I didn't want to do that. So I took a different approach.
Well, and it was almost like kind of a semi-humorous approach. Like Fantastic Voyage, the video is like, it's like almost like your later Juggalo stuff. Like, it's all these clowns coming out of a car in the video.
Actually, no, it wasn't clowns. It was just all kind of people. It was normal people coming out of the trunk. That was actually, and by the way, that whole video, pretty much that whole video and everything about it, the whole concept was mine.
That's great. So you were writing the lyrics. Who wrote the music?
Who wrote what?
Who wrote the music, like the melody around the song?
My boy, we call him DJ Wino. His real name is Brian Dobbs. He wrote. He did like 13 songs on my first album.
Wow! And then did you work with him on Gangsta's Paradise also?
Yeah, he did about maybe 7 on the second album. He didn't do that many on the third. Yeah.
So Fantastic Voyage was a hit, but then Gangsta's Paradise, you didn't even realize at first how big that was going to be. Like, how did that come about?
Well, Gangsta's Paradise, man, I walked in the studio and I heard the track playing. LV was singing, he was just fleshing out the hook, just getting it, just getting it right. And I walked in the studio and I said, whose track is this? And the producer's name is Doug Rashid. And I said, whose beat is this? And he said, nobody's. He said, it's something I'm working on. I sound just like him right now too. He said, it's something I'm working on. I said, okay. I said, well, then it's mine. Just like that. And the first thing I said was, as I walked through the valley of the shadow of death, I take a look at my life and realize there's nothing left. I said that. I sat down. I wrote that down, and then I kept writing it. You know what? The funny thing about Gangsta's Paradise, I don't think I ever. Once I started writing Gangsta's Paradise, I never picked up my pen.
Wow, you just said it.
I mean, it was kind of like, you know what's weird about Gangsta's Paradise? And I used to say that I wrote Gangsta's Paradise, but in reality, Gangsta's Paradise wrote me.
And I mean, the lyrics every step of the way they're really inspirational. They're not about a gangster's paradise. They're about getting out of what somebody might view as a gangster's paradise, so you can get out of the shadow of death.
Well, you know what, man? I grew up in a bad neighborhood, and I grew up around a lot of bad people, but I wasn't necessarily a bad kid, man. I wanted to be friends with everybody. I was a nice guy, which was not a good thing where I was from. Really not. I went through a lot. I went through a lot because for being nice.
Like what?
I got bullied. I got bullied, man, from second grade to all the way to seventh grade. Man, I was a bullied child.
So you really wanted to. It seems like you really wanted to teach people how to get out of this.
I didn't want to fight. I wanted to teach everybody how to read.
And so you wrote this song.
I had aspirations of being the next Martin Luther King or Malcolm X or something like that. Those were my aspirations in life. You know,
Okay.
I mean, that's what I started off wanting to be.
Okay, well, so you were 22 years old when you wrote Gangsta's Paradise, and this really changed your life. Like, you were a life-changing person at that age.
Well, actually, Fantastic Voyage changed my life. I think more than Gangsta Paradise did at that time. Now, if you look on some years later, of course, Gangsta Paradise took me to a lot of places that Fantastic Voyage didn't. But Fantastic Voyage actually gave me a taste. It gave me a glimpse of what it could be. You know, well, not more than a glimpse. Because you know, I got nominated for a Grammy for that, didn't I? Yeah, I got a Grammy nomination for Fantastic Voyage.
Well, Fantastic Voyage is definitely, in my view, what put you on the map. That was a video that was played everywhere. Yeah. It was a huge hit. It probably got you into the, you know, they probably, you know, Dangerous Minds probably picked Gangsta's Paradise because of Fantastic Voyage.
Gangsta's Paradise, Fantastic Voyage got me in the door, all the way through the door and into the next room, but Gangsta's Paradise got me into the attic and the backyard and on the tennis court and into the pool, and it solidified me as somebody that, you know, that people will probably always remember long after I'm gone. So I mean, you know, I'm blessed, man. It was a blessing, but it's also a curse.
Why is that?
Because for the life of me, man, I mean, I've been writing great songs since Gangsta's Paradise, but you know, people, it's almost like I only got one song to a lot of people.
Like when you go on tour, every single time you perform, do you perform Gangsta's Paradise?
I have to. Like people would be upset if I didn't. But here's something.
You know, even recently, you've got some great songs, like your song with Snoop Dogg.
The song with Snoop Dogg, I mean, it did pretty good. I mean, I got some record sales off that in other parts of the world and Europe, but I didn't even release it in the United States.
Oh, really? You know? It's on YouTube though. Like you can watch it.
Yeah, well, yeah, people can see it. It's all good, but I'm just saying, it's just a weird thing, you know. I mean,
do you ever feel sad because you feel like everybody views Gangsta Walk as like, I mean, Gangsta's Paradise as this like peak in your rap career?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's not sad. I'm not sad about it, but it's, you know, it's weird. It's like I said, it's a weird thing because, I mean, it's like, you don't know, it's like I never, after Gangsta's Paradise, it was like nobody wanted to give me another chance. Like nobody wanted to hear me again. Like, you know, I mean, you know, people didn't, I don't know, it was weird. Like my second album, I think, was much better than my second album, but nobody heard it. And that wasn't my fault, nor I think it was the people's fault. That was my record company's fault, which at the time was Tommy Boy. And absolutely, I think they did it on purpose. It was internal sabotage, and it was something that they did to all their multi-platinum groups like De La Soul and Naughty by Nature. If you take a look at Tommy Boy's history, if you take every last one of they double platinum groups, the group that made them their money, they did not do well on their third album. And I think it was because the way the contract was written. The way the contract was written, I'm sure everybody had the same language in their contract. If you did well on that third album, oh man, you got so many points and so much. They had to give you so much money, and I don't think they wanted to do that back then. They didn't have that kind of vision. They was like, okay, we made enough money. It's time to move on to the next.
But you know, despite that,
you did it on purpose.
You know, you still had "See You When You Get There" on that next album, which was really, you know, that album went platinum also.
Well, you know, I mean, still, but it didn't at the time, though. It didn't at the time. It didn't do well at the time. You know what I mean? At the time, I mean, I had 8-10 singles on that third album.
Wow. So let's talk, let me ask you about the economics. So how many copies did Gangsta's Paradise sell?
Gangsta Paradise sold over 70 million copies. I'll say
gosh.
when it's all said and done, it'll probably be at about 30 million.
And so
I mean,
how much
at about
do you
100 million.
personally
When
get
it's
per
all said and
album?
done, probably by the time I'm going to meet my maker, I would say that Gangsta Paradise would probably be at about 100 million.
Wow. And again, for each sale, and you're probably still making money because of iTunes and all that. How much do you make per?
I still make money off of it. Listen, like I said, it's a blessing and a curse. But there are those. I do have some core fans that they wait to see what I'm doing next, and they listen to the stuff that I'm doing now, the stuff I did in previous years. That a lot of I'm once again I'm an underground artist like I used to be. I'm not a mainstream artist anymore, but I'm one of the kings of the underground though.
But so like with iTunes, which is now like, how do you feel about the fact that basically everything moved from albums to iTunes? So now you just have to sell singles rather than albums.
Hey, I predicted that. I predicted that 15, 17 years ago. I actually said that everybody should prepare themselves for music to be free, because I looked at it like this: if somebody has a choice between paying their light bill, buying some food, or buying an album, I think they're not gonna pick the album.
Right. Now, but how will artists make money? Like, how will the next generation of rappers make money?
They're going to be like bards. They're going to be like bards and traveling musicians. It's even like now, if you want for an artist to even come out and sign autographs, they're getting 20, 30, 40,000, stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So it's all about getting money on appearances and sponsorships and clothing deals and, stuff like that. It's not really about record sales anymore. And I knew that was going to happen. So, hey, pretty soon it might get worse than that. People probably won't even be paying for concerts no more. Once it gets really bad here in our country, people are not going to be able to afford to pay for concerts. And you never know. I mean, if this country goes under martial law, they won't even allow concerts, or the concerts will be sponsored by the government. So people who have some talent to sing, play an instrument, rap, or something like that, they're going to be like traveling bars. They're going to travel around and they're going to sing, rap, dance, and play for food and lodging, like they used to do back in the day, like they did in the during the time when they were I guess I could say medieval times. So
Coolio, that's a pretty pessimistic view of where things are heading. Do you think there's a chance for optimism?
I'm not very optimistic about taking a look at what's going on and knowing what I know and seeing what I've seen and actually being right in the thick of some of these things. I would say that things are going to get absolutely, completely much worse before they ever get better. And who knows? Definitely in my lifetime, I won't see things get better. I didn't even expect to be alive during these times. The things that are going on right now, I didn't even expect to be here. So,
what do you see as the next steps in kind of like the downfall of America?
The fall of the dollar. The dollar's dropped 4% every year since 2009.
Now, Coolio, why do you keep track of this stuff?
Hey man, because it's important. It's important, for me to keep track of that stuff so that I can, because I have a family, I have children, and I have people that depend on me, man. So every dollar counts, and every penny counts. In these times, I'm trying to figure out a way to get my money out of dollars. I'm trying to figure out what's the next phase. Gold is too expensive. Copper, precious metals are too expensive. So I'm trying to figure out something else. I'm gonna try to figure out I'm trying to create some type of barter system or something.
That's interesting. So have you invested in other stuff other than precious metals or euros or anything?
Yeah, I'm dibbling, dabbling in a few things. You know, I'm dibbling. I don't want to put it out there. I don't want nobody to make a run on what I'm running on. But
So
I want to. My thing is what I'm trying to do right now is I'm trying to learn how to be self-sustainable, how to live without the power company, how to live without the water company and the gas company and all of it, and how to have a vehicle drive without gas, and I'm trying to think of other things, other ways to live life, without being dependent on anybody. I'm not necessarily saying I'm trying to get off the grid, but I'm trying to I want to be able to get off the grid if I have to.
So have you looked into like the architecture of stuff like that, or like how to build a house like that?
I don't think a house is going to be that important. Some type of, depending on where I decide to, where I have to move around to, it might be. But as long as I have a vehicle, I have somewhere to sleep.
Right. That's again, given the amazing success you've had, that's a pessimistic way to look at it. That you're basically saying you're going to try to figure out a vehicle where you could sleep in kind of a big car.
Well, either that or some type of tent structure, or there's always the caves. There's always going to be caves, and it's many ways to do things. You could dig a big pit and put a tarp over it, as long as it's not raining or snowing real heavy.
But you know what, Coolio? A lot of times I see people who are young, they get worried about money, and then after they have money, they get worried about the end of the world and survival. I think sometimes it's not as optimistic as young people think, and it's not as pessimistic as us people who have gotten a little older think either.
Well, that's because you're suffering from normalcy.
That could be.
And like most people suffer from normalcy. Normalcy is a condition that most people have where they don't believe that something like that could happen because it hasn't happened. And but you live in America, so that's why you feel that way. But if you lived in Venezuela, or if you lived in, let's say, Russia, you wouldn't be thinking like that because it's already happened in those places. Also, and I'm not saying, and all this end of the world crap, that's crap. There's not going to be no end of the world. That's not going to happen. What it is, it's going to be the end of an age. When people start talking about the end of the world, that they read it wrong, because if you understand, the things that were written down that were passed on to us for us to learn from were interpreted wrong. And when people interpreted the end of the world, that phrase, what it actually was the end of the eon, and the eon is actually the end of the age. And we already have ended one age and into another one. We're now in the age of Aquarius. So that's already happened. So,
and it's funny, throughout your music, there's this undertone of, I don't want to say kind of a religious undertone, because obviously in Gangsta's Paradise you start that way, but even the idea of A Fantastic Voyage or See You When You Get There, all of these titles suggest that, we're going someplace. And
well, listen, I'm gonna have to say that. I'm gonna say this. I'm not religious at all. I don't believe in organized religion nor denomination. I think that religion is written doctrine created by men to control other men, women, and children. That's what I believe. I don't believe in religion. I do believe that there's a creator. I believe that there's some type of God figure, but I don't believe in any man-made religion, because most of these religions aren't old enough to have, most of the religions that we're taught to take part in aren't old enough to possibly be true, because the earth is much older than that. And like I said, from the things I've studied and read, they can't possibly be true. And anybody that thinks they are, It's just because they've been brainwashed. They've been brainwashed by society and by the system. And I refuse to take that route. I'm one of those kind of people, man. I gotta find my own way, even if it's the wrong way. Learn by trial and error. And sometimes, most of my life lessons have been hard ones.
So it seems like in the past 10 years, you've taken like kind of a right turn. Like, I really love the, cooking with Coolio. A lot of your reality stuff, it seems like you also had this very big interest in being a chef, and you're expressing it, in all these different reality shows.
I can cook, man. I really can. I have an affinity for it. It's something that happened totally by accident. There was a time when I didn't enjoy mealtime anymore. I didn't enjoy food. I ate to live. And then because of that, I used to eat my food like as if I was in prison, as if I was on a time limit. And one day my daughter said to me, she said, "Daddy, why do you eat like that?" And I said, "Eat like that?" She said, "You know what I'm talking about." And I said, "Well," so I explained it to her. I said, "Well, I don't really enjoy the food." She said, "This food is good, though." I said, "Well, it's not good to me." And so she said, "You know what, Daddy, you might need some therapy. You might need to go see somebody and talk to somebody about that." I was like, "Shut up and go eat." So, but it did stick in my head what she said, and I recognized that I did have some type of problem. But most of the time, black people don't do therapy, and I'm one of those people. So I gave myself therapy, self-therapy. I identified what my problem was and where it stemmed from, and I sat down and objectively thought about a way to fix it, which was to learn how to cook things that taste like my mother's cooking, and that way I would enjoy food again. And that's what I did. It probably took me 10 years, almost 12 years to figure out the way my mother used to do things, but I did, and some of the things I do better. And through that process, I realized that I had a refined palate. So, it took me to another place.
So that's funny. It took 10 years of work. Like, were you cooking every day? Were you studying cooking every day?
Pretty much, yeah. I was. What's up, man? Let me get a toast. I cooked every day for a lot of years, and I got stuck in my chili powder phase, where everything I cooked had to have chili powder in it, or it had to be hot and spicy. I went from that to cooking everything in the oven. Everything I made was in the oven, and I slow cooked all my meat, and pretty much used the same seasoning on everything. And from that, I just branched out and started. I just started doing all kind of stuff.
And then you did the online show, Cooking with Coolio. What made you decide to do an online show like that?
Me and my business partner and my manager, Jerez, we used to share a house. And
Jerez, he was on Cooking with Coolio.
Yeah, he actually sitting right here. He used to be my AC. He ain't my AC no more. He a chef in his own right now, so I can't really call him my AC no more. But I'm his sous chef. He my sous chef. We help each other out.
Cool.
So anyway, we were watching. We both happened to be watching watching the cooking channel or the Food Network or something like that, and it was this guy on there, and he was boiling some water for something, and he was talking, and he turned his head away from the pot, and he grabbed the handle. And he didn't realize that it was that the handle was not non-conductive. It was conductive, and the handle was just as hot as the pot. And he burnt the hell out of his hand, and he dropped the pot and he screamed. And I started cracking up. And Jerez started cracking up, but he was in another room. Now listen to me. Jerez was in another room. I was in another room. We both was watching the same thing. We both ran out of our room at the same time, met each other in the hallway, and realized that we had been watching the same thing. And then so he said, man, cooking shows is boring, man. Man, somebody need to do another type of cooking show, man. He said, what if we had a cooking show? And I said, if we had a cooking show, it'd be like this. And we started pretending like we had a cooking show. So every time my kids would come over or somebody would come over, we'd bring some girls over or whatever, we would pretend like we had a cooking show.
That's great.
And that's how it started. And we did it for fun. And then a friend of ours came over. He just happened to just got his foot in the door. He was a writer who had just got his foot in the door in Hollywood and television, well, film and television. And he said he knew somebody that might want to give us a deal online, which was mydamnchannel.com. And you know, we went and pitched them the idea, and they jumped on it, and that's how Cooking with Coolio was born.
Well, it's really funny because it's a different side of you. You know, people are used to seeing the Gangster's Paradise Coolio, and then it's just off the charts, the Cooking with Coolio. It's not your average cooking show.
Well, state, you know what? Just speaking of that, you gotta just start paying attention, and you know, check my Facebook, you know, check my Instagram and my Twitter and my Vine, and we starting to do a lot more comedy type stuff. I'm starting to do this show called Coolio's Comedy Cafe.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
Yeah, we just started. It's in its infancy, but I promise you won't have to wait 10 years for me to refine this one because I already got it down. So we gonna start doing. Go ahead.
Do you still every month or 6 months or whatever get a check for Gangster's Paradise? Like, does that still bring in money?
Every 4 months.
Every 4 months. So that'll just keep you going.
Every quarter.
And you're touring and you're doing all this other creative stuff. When you were first starting out with the rapping and you're writing every single day, 10 years, who were your biggest influences? Because you must have had kind of mentors, either virtual or actual.
Melly Mel from Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5, I think.
These are all New York guys.
That was the first rapper I wanted to be like. And he used to rap like this. I'm Melly Mel. I'm Coolio. I mean, it was like that. That was my first. And then there was Curtis Blow and Run DMC. And the first time I went to Fresh Fest, and I had a partner I was rapping with named Spoonie C. And we saw Run DMC for the first time, and it changed my life. You know, we immediately, you know, we were in a performing arts program at a radio station called KDAY back in the day, 1580 KDAY. It was on AM radio, and we were in a performing arts program for them, and we performed at senior centers and you know, performed at high schools. And you know, every once in a while, you know, somebody would get a slot opening up for a big artist, you know, at a radio, one of those radio summer jam show type jams, and all that type of stuff. And from, you know, I immediately went, you know, I went and changed my show completely after I saw DMC. Like my whole way of looking at hip hop changed.
In what way?
I realized that, I actually realized what actual stage presence and showmanship was, you know. I've never seen anybody control the stage like Run did. Run controlled the stage better than what's our boy from the Rolling Stones, man? Run from Run DMC controlled the stage better than Mick Jagger.
Really? Because Mick Jagger's known for controlling the stage.
I mean, he was, man, people hung on his every word, like everything he said, people just hung on his words, man, and I was amazed. I was like, I want to do that.
So what are some tips for controlling the stage?
And that's what I aspire to be.
What are some tips?
I'm gonna tell you somebody else that changed the way everybody rapped, and that was Rakim from Eric B. and Rakim. Rakim was the first rapper to rap in his natural speaking voice versus rapping like this. or putting some type of accent on his voice or something like that. He was the first one to do that, and it changed everything. It changed the way we do everything.
But I feel like in your take Gangster's Paradise as a classic example. There's almost a little bit of singing in what you're doing. It's not like your natural voice.
I'm not. No, I'm good. Back then, I think when I was rapping, I wanted to have my own style, my own sound. So I took a little bit of that old school stuff and put it back into hip hop. As I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I put a lot of inflection on my voice.
Right.
I tried to sound like I wanted to sound like the things that I was saying, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds unlike. I mean, that was, just so people know, that was the #1 selling song in 1995 across all genres. So you beat everybody. How did that feel that year?
It also to this day it is the longest #1 single in Australia.
Really?
Yes.
Why Australia?
It's across the board around the world. It's the #1 selling rap song around the world.
So
Not in the
what
United
rappers
States
in
anymore,
LA were mentors to you?
I mean, of course, I was an Ice Cube fan, Eazy-E fan, I mean, I learned a lot from Ice-T. I got a chance to go on tour with Ice-T back in the day. Ice-T actually taught me. What I learned from Ice-T. I learned how to be an artist, how to be an actual artist. It had nothing to do with performing or anything like that, but how to be an actual artist, how to do interviews and how to conduct yourself and stuff like that. I mean, I learned that from him.
What are some of the tips he gave you?
Well, this was the main tip that Ice-T gave me, and the thing I always remember him, and I thank him for it to this day. He told me that when you're doing interviews, he said, don't ever let anybody dictate an interview when they're talking to you. Answer their question, and then tell them what you want them to know. And he said, if they start, getting pushy, he said, just over talk them and drown them out. He said, then if they start getting pushy, he said, don't let them talk at all. Don't even let them ask you questions. Ask yourself the questions, and then just continue on and have your own agenda. Let people know what you want them to know, not what anybody asks you. So if somebody asks you a question that you don't want to answer, just pretend like you didn't hear it and say something completely different that has nothing to do with the question they asked you.
And then, Ice-T sort of took rap into kind of a metal direction, and you, again, took rap into this more kind of melodic or lyrical direction with Gangster's Paradise. So you guys sort of split off in terms of style.
Yeah, well, Ice was trying to create something that would allow him to remain, something that was going to last longer than the average rap career, and he did that. He did exactly that with the body count thing and everything, If I went in the direction
now of doing, kind of TV stuff. I mean, with him with, his CSI stuff, and you with, the Cooking with Coolio and the reality show stuff.
Yeah, Ice is a true artist, man. Like I said, I learned a whole lot from him. He's a straight original, and yeah, he taught a lot of people He taught a lot of people.
Well,
he had the Rhyme Syndicate. He taught all them cats. He taught Dub C how to be an artist. I mean, just everybody. I think everybody learned from Ice-T.
So it's interesting. I think the lessons here are write every day. You got to do what you love every single day, and you can't get distracted by no matter what is going on around you. And you got to learn from the people around you, like the mentors around you. And
I think you got to be prepared to listen. I'm gonna say it like this. This is what I say, and this is what I tell kids. If you are rapping, singing, doing any type of entertainment because you want to be rich, you want to be famous, you want to get girls or guys, whatever. If that's why you're doing it, then you should stop, because it might not happen. If you're doing it because you love it, then continue to do it because you love it. And even if you don't make it, at least you'll be doing something that you love, and learn how to do other things. You might learn the business of music and the business of other forms of entertainment, and maybe you can manage somebody, and you just rap for or dance or sing for a hobby.
So I kind of call that the umbrella approach. So if you're interested in rap, there's lots of ways you could succeed. One way is rapping, the other way is managing, the other way is being an executive or whatever.
It is, man. That's a whole bunch of ways to go, man. A lot, quite a few. And so, I'm just. Go ahead.
What's next for you? Are you going to focus on the? I mean, obviously you're doing touring. Are you going to focus on the comedy shows?
Well, no. I'm trying to do a few things. A few things right now. I'm gonna stay with cooking, because that's one of my passions, and I'm gonna keep rapping until I start sounding like till I don't sound good anymore, or I don't have wind anymore. I'm getting older. I'll continue rapping until I'm not good anymore. When I start sounding like garbage, and my mind is not sharp enough while I'm witty and I can come with bomb lyrics, then I'll quit. But then after, in the midst of that, I'm going to continue to cook and create different foods and different dishes. I plan to go into frozen food someday. Maybe open a restaurant, or and have maybe a couple food trucks, and who knows? We might even open a Coolio cooking school. Who knows?
Yeah, I love that idea.
If I get the right investors. Not only that, we're gonna do some comedy. We're gonna do more cooking shows. We're gonna do more cookbooks. We're gonna do festivals and all kind of stuff, man. And then we just, I'm trying to get back on TV. And then I'm trying to bring a hip hop show to the Vegas Strip.
What would you say right now is, given the span of your career, like this is a 35-year span of your career, what's the lowest point of your career?
Man. I don't even want to talk about that, because I don't want to go there.
Okay, no problem.
I'm just saying I'm well away from that point, and the way to stay away from something is to leave it away. So
let me ask you in a different way. How did you bounce back from the lowest point in your career?
I just took it one day at a time, bro.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you, the lowest point of my career, I had a little stint, maybe about 8 years ago. I started dabbling, playing around with that damn cocaine again, and it almost got me. But I was able to get away from it again. So that's two strikes. I won't go in for a third. So I'm done. I'm done with the drug scene. And
how do you get away from a bad habit like that?
Man, it's willpower. You have to understand, there aren't many drugs that are physically addictive. There are some. I've never been hooked on any. Cocaine, stuff like that. Those are mentally addictive drugs, and my mind is stronger than my body.
All right,
I tell my body, and I tell my hands and my feet, and not to go and buy drugs from this person or that person. I control myself, so my mind. I just use my mind and say, okay, I don't want to do that no more, so I'm not.
Well, clearly that's helped you in a lot of cases, building up the rap career, avoiding these situations, building the cooking career. You've been an incredible success. I have to tell you, I don't know if this is a good or bad thing to tell you, but Gangsta's Paradise is my all-time favorite song ever. So thank you for writing it. It's a completely different song than any other song out there. And I really appreciate you coming on my show.
Hey, you know what? You're where you are right now, but I bet you if you could see what I'm seeing right now, you'll wish you had my eyes.
I'm sure. What are you seeing right now?
Man, you should see this bartender I'm looking at right now. Man, she's smoking. Like the room got a little haze of smoke in it. Like somebody in there smoking cigarettes.
Well,
she that hot. She that hot, bro. She's so hot that she got somebody need to put ice on everything in there.
See, you still got away with words.
I'm just telling. To be honest with you, I'm just telling the damn truth.
That's great, Coolio. Well, you've had an impressive career, and again, thanks so much for coming on the show. I super appreciate it.
She's from Hungary. She making me hungry. She look like something to eat.
See, you're combining your cooking with your rapping.
Exactly. Hey man, you know what? Because you started off kind of, I thought you was gonna be obnoxious and whatnot, but you actually
Why'd you think I was gonna be obnoxious? You
started off kind of goofy, but then actually you're quite intelligent, man. Your line of questioning and the way you ask questions is very disarming. You made me talk about stuff that I don't normally talk about. I let you get in my head, man, without really knowing it. So kudos to you, man.
Thank you. We're mutual fans. That's great.
Shaka Zulu.
Thanks again.
All right, be cool, bro.
I will talk to you soon, Coolio. Bye.
Keep doing what you're doing, man.
You too.
For more from James, check out the James Altucher Show on the Stansberry Radio Network at stansberryradio.com and get yourself on the free insiders list today.
AI might be the most important new computer technology ever. It's storming every industry and literally billions of dollars are being invested. So buckle up. The problem is that AI needs a lot of speed and processing power, so how do you compete without costs spiraling out of control? It's time to upgrade to the next generation of the cloud, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, or OCI. OCI is a single platform for your infrastructure, database, application development, and AI needs. OCI has 4 to 8 times the bandwidth of other clouds, offers one consistent price instead of variable regional pricing, and of course, nobody does data better than Oracle. So now you can train your AI models at twice the speed and less than half the cost of other clouds. If you want to do more and spend less, like Uber, 8x8, and Databricks Mosaic, take a free test drive of OCI at oracle.com/advance. That's oracle.com/advance. oracle.com/advance.